The first mistake of starting a rent roll is thinking that it's easy. It's really hard work. It's a problems business, just solving problems all the time, and it's not easy at all. The second mistake people make when starting a rent roll is one of the biggest costs for the rental business is actually the cost of that first employee. Because a rental business may only bring in, say, these are the best tips for building your rent roll. The number one way is through the sales team. The second best way to build your rent roll is to... So you've mastered the market, but now you want to start winning for yourself. I'm Daniel Lee. Some know me as real estate's funny guy, but in the Get Keen podcast, we get down to business and explore what gets people really keen, how to get the most out of your real estate career, how to build a successful business and live the best life for yourself and your family. We'll uncover how to be hugely successful in real estate, setting you up to get keen and make the next big move in your life. Well, welcome back to Get Keen with yours truly, Dan Lee. And today I'm going to talk about rental businesses, right? What's so good about them? Why would you want to grow a rental business? What are some tips I can give on rental businesses? And what are some of the key mistakes to avoid when starting and growing a rental business? So firstly, just so you know, I have built a rental business with my team, of course. In fact, I hardly did anything. They did it all because they're amazing. But along with my team, we grew a rental business from absolutely nothing. So out of my apartment, which we were in where we started it, and today has over 800, all organic. So we've never bought a rent roll. So, you know, we have been involved in it. And, you know, my team has helped to grow this thing. So I want to share some tips with you. Okay. So firstly, let's talk about what is the point of growing a rent roll. Well, firstly, one of the positive things about a rent roll is the asset value. Okay. So when you grow a rent roll, it's actually something that's worth some value. And I guess one of the ideas of growing a business is not just that you can make more income from growing a business if it's successful, and it doesn't always turn out that way. But the other thing is that at the end of the day, in 10 years, 20 years, whatever, when you move on from that business and you want to sell it, in real estate, the main value to a real estate agency is actually the value of that rent roll, okay? And a sales team still has a monetary value if you were to sell it along with the rent roll. However, banks don't look at and business value doesn't really consider the value of what a sales team brings in, because sales teams are kind of glued to the business through the leadership and what's being offered to them. And if there's all of a sudden a change in the leadership, then quite often salespeople will leave and join another business, or they'll go somewhere else. So that's why banks don't like to put a value on salespeople, because they just chop and change too much. Whereas with a rental business, when they sell, there's sometimes some loss, but most clients will just stick around as long as the service is still just as good, okay? So there is an intrinsic monetary value to the rent roll, and how that's calculated is it's a multiplier of the income that it brings into the business. So I'll just give you a quick example. A $500,000 property that rents for $500 a week, right? So $500 a week times 52, what does that equal? 26,000. So 26,000. Now the fee on that, it would be roughly 7%, was 0.7 times 26,000, 1,820. Now, a rent roll at the moment in the current market, and certain things come into play here, which are how close all the rentals are together, how many of them are houses, how long that they have been rentals for. There's all these metrics that sort of come into a multiplier, but generally it sits around 3 times the income that is produced yearly from that rental. So 1820 times 3 is 5460. Yes, I got that. I'm pretty good at my maths. A rental that's renting for about $500 a week would be worth typically about $5,500 if it was to sell. Now, usually you can't go and sell one rental. They sell in batches. So let's say you built up your rental business to 200, then 200 times that, if that was the average rental value and average percentage for those properties. So there's an actual value. So if you ever sell the business, it's obviously worth something. And that can tie into the value with the sales team as well. And obviously there's some sort of value to the brand. If the brand has multiple offices and is very well recognized, then that sort of comes into the whole package of the value of the business. But really the main value in the sale of any property business is the value of that rent roll. So, and down the track, when you've built up a rent roll, you can actually borrow against it. So, if you wanted to buy a commercial property, the bank would need some equity in order to back the loan against, the value of some sort of equity, and the equity is in the rent roll. So a rent roll worth $1 million, they might lend up to 60% of that. So you might get 600, maybe 700,000 lent to you per $1 million that the rental is worth. So obviously the bigger the rent roll, the more you can borrow. So that's how, business owners can then leverage the asset value to, expand the business and things like that. So really important that you look at that as a long-term value for the business. That's one of the really good things. Another reason why a rental business is a great idea or investment is obviously the income that it produces. Now, it doesn't produce a whole lot. And in fact, most rental businesses don't make that much money for the business until they get to a certain stage. And the number is usually about 300 to 400 before it's making like anything that's kind of helpful, because there's quite a lot of fixed costs to a rental business. I might go into that a bit further down, but obviously the income coming in the long term is really good for the business because it's steady every single week. Depending on how many rentals you've got that steady income every single week coming into the business. No matter how many sales you do or how the market is going, the rental properties will always be renting and the income keeps coming in. And that is a really good thing to stabilize a sales and rental business, because sales can be up and down, listings can be up and down, and the market can change dramatically with sales a lot more than with rentals. And the income that businesses can get can seriously change with salespeople leaving, coming, markets tightening up. So just relying on sales income is a little bit more, can have more challenging times and more risky times. So the income into the business is obviously a big reason why you would want to go and start a rental business. The third thing though, which is really good for starting a rent roll, is the marketing that you get out of it. So imagine this, right? If you're just doing sales, you've got your sales boards out there and, you're talking to buyers and sellers, but with every rental that you get another signboard out every time the rental comes up again for rent. So every time the tenant moves out, you can put another rental board up. And it's like just every year or two, because tenants change over, fairly often, probably on average every 2 years. That's a new signboard at that property every single time. So you want as many signboards as you can of your business out there in the marketplace, exposing your brand and your business. Along with that, not just the signboards, there's realestate.com and domain.com, the portals. It's just more people interacting with your business. So And also all the marketing that you get to do to all of those property owners, which are your landlords. So lots of marketing that comes out of the rental business as well. So there's the asset value to the business, there's the income that it produces, there's the marketing that you get out of it, and also the sales that you get. That's really important because you can imagine all of those landlords that you're looking after, they own these properties, they don't hang on to them forever. Most of the time they sell them every 5 to 7 years. So if you've got 100 rentals on your books, there's probably 5 to 10 of them that will sell in the next 12 months. And if you're looking after your landlords well and keeping in touch and feeding them the information, and they know you guys do sales as well, 90% of the time, your agency is going to get the chance to sell that property when it comes back on the market. So there's so many positive reasons to start a rental business. So one really important thing I want to talk about when you start your real estate business is the ideal person to get for your first employee. Okay, so the ideal person you want to look for who's going to help you get this rental business off the ground is someone who has some property management experience and also a little bit of BDM or sales experience. Or if they don't have the sales experience, they've got the personality type where they don't mind, like talking to people all the time, and they've just got that bubbly, welcoming personality that you could sort of mold into a salesperson. When you start out, one of the biggest costs for the rental business is actually the cost of that first employee, because a rental business may only bring in, say, $1,600 a year, and you've got to pay someone, at least in the beginning, just to look after it, and they might cost $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 plus super, plus everything else that comes with it. So you're probably going to need at least 50 rentals just to pay for the person who's going to be managing them. And when you first start, you don't have that many properties for rent. In fact, you might have none. So having a whole person on a full year's salary managing one property, we've got to get them to be doing some other tasks. And the best thing that they can be doing when you're starting is building the rent roll, looking for leads, and actually being a bit of a salesperson. So remember, sales is everything. Rentals is sales. You've got to be able to sell your business as the best business to look after this investment property for the owner. Everything is sales. So if you can get someone who's in property management and good at sales as your first person, that's the best start. Because if they're not busy enough managing properties, then they're busy out there finding leads and converting them into the business. And then once there's enough properties on the books, so maybe 50 to 80, then it's time to go, right, time to invest in a full-time property manager and have either this person that you've got go full-time sales BDM and have full-time property manager. That's the way you've got to set it up. Now I want to talk about some strategies and some of the best ways to get rental business into your business. Okay, so the number one way to get rental business into your business, in my opinion, is through the sales team. Okay, so when you start your business, normally you're going to be a sales principal. So you're going to be building this team, but you're going to be out there doing sales. And obviously you're experienced in this. When you go and sell a property, a lot of the time it sells to an investor, and you get that investor to then rent their property through your business. So that's probably the easiest way that you can find leads. And if you start to build a sales team, right, each of your sales team in a way becomes kind of a mini BDM for your business, because they're out there doing their own sales. And when they sell something to an investor, obviously they work hard to try and get that investor talking to the BDM in your business to then rent the property out. Okay. And that, usually if the salesperson has done a really good job, was really helpful with the person when they made their offer and they bought the property and they provided great service, most of the time you will get the opportunity, because just the reputation that salesperson has built with that person throughout the sales process will be enough to get it over the line. Okay, so that's the number one way. The second best way to build your rent roll is to get your BDM to connect with all the investors that they can in the marketplace through the sales team. So what I mean by that is you as a selling principal and your agents, you go out there every weekend to show homes and you get inquiries. So you have inspections on your homes and you also get inquiries through the internet on properties, and you're in contact with all of these buyers out there in the marketplace. Now, if you're focused on building your rent roll, a really good question to ask every single buyer that you and your team come across is, are you looking for a home to live in, or are you looking for an investment property? And if the buyer is looking for an investment property, you make a note next to it, or you have something that you can tag them on in your CRM. And then it's the BDM's job at the beginning of the week to talk to each of the sales team and find all of those investment buyers, connect with them all by giving them a call. And if they can't get a hold of them with a call, texting them and seeing if the BDM can actually help these people to look for the right investment property for them. Okay, that's a huge value add that a BDM can give buyers in the marketplace, because a lot of buyers might just have some money, they want to buy a property, but they don't really know what they're doing. They're just kind of looking around, seeing different properties and kind of working out what's good and what's not. And a massive value that a rental BDM can do is connect with these buyers and say, hey, would you mind or would you like some help looking for the perfect rental property? Myself and my team look after over 500 rental properties, and let's be honest, there's some really good ones, but some not so good ones. And I can help you find rental properties that tick all the right boxes. They give you a good yield, they're going to resell really well, and they're going to rent really easily, and they're going to be low maintenance. Who wouldn't want that kind of help out there in the marketplace? So then what your BDM does is finds the best ones that want the help and who are also ready to buy. So there needs to be some qualification questions that the BDM should ask, because you can only look after so many people, and it's important to look after the people that are actually ready to do something. Because some people out there in the marketplace, they look and they look and they look and they never do anything. So you want to be asking some qualifying questions, and a really good question is, do you know the areas that you want to invest in? Do you know the budget that you have to invest in a property? And 3, have you made an offer on any property yet? If they can't answer where they want to invest, or they're like, oh, look, I'd look in here or over here, I'd look, it doesn't really matter, they don't really have a goal, then they're probably the type of person that just looks at everything and never makes a decision. Okay, so I would want to be working with someone that knew the specific area that they wanted to work in, and it's an area that your office wants to service. Okay, if someone's looking in suburbs, 20 kilometers away, and they're just checking out some properties in your area too, probably not the best person to spend time on, because they'll probably end up going and buying a property way out of your area, and you may not even want to service that investment property. 2, it's really important to work with people that are ready to buy. So asking if they've made an offer on something yet. Most people do not buy the first property that they make an offer on, because normally people come in, like the first offer they make on the first property, they're kind of nervous. They probably throw it in too late, too low, and then they get beaten. And then the next time they make an offer, they know, I've got to come in strong, I've got to come in hard, I've got to come in quicker, and then they end up buying it. You want to be working with those people who are ready to buy, because, again, we only have so much time to work with so many people, and we want to be working with ready to go people. So asking those qualifying questions, really important for the BDM. But I can tell you, our office converts so many rentals from doing this practice in the marketplace. And a BDM should probably have a limit. So maybe working with, say, 10 to 20 investors at any one time, and every single investment property that comes on the market, or any good property that looks like it'd be a good investment, call each of the investors who fit that type of property and talk to them about it. Doesn't matter if it was listed by your agent or another agency. right? Here's the key. Like a lot of agencies, they only want to sell the properties that their agency is selling. That doesn't matter. If you're working with an investor, the goal is for them to list their investment property with you. And you don't want that investor then going and making such a good connection with that agent and getting more information from the agent they buy it off, and then they end up giving the rental to that agency. If you do a really good job at this, it doesn't matter what property or what company that investor buys the property off. If you provide such a value add to them whilst they were looking and provide a service that no other agency provided that investor, right up until the point that they buy the property and they buy it off a completely different company, then that investor says, they've already made up their mind. As soon as I buy my investment property, I'm going with these guys. They've helped me out. They know how they looked after me. You know, they buy the property off the agent, another agent in the end, but the decision's made. They're going to you. And we get a lot of rentals from doing this extra effort with the investors in the marketplace before they buy. So that's the second tip I can give. The third way that my business attracts rental businesses is through Google. So we spend an amount on Google ads every month, around $1,500 to $3,000. We change it every now and again and change strategies. But one thing with Google, so the inquiries end up coming through the website, but we can see that, you know, originally came from a Google search. And one of the things that has really helped our Google search as well, so not just the money that we spend, but also our positive reviews. So we have at Plum Property more Google reviews than any other agency in Brisbane. And here's a really important tip I'm going to give you. I'm going to share with you a really great secret is I pay my staff for every single 5-star Google review they get. What a great trick. I used to just ask my staff, hey, it's really important that we get good Google reviews. Can everyone try and have a think about it? And I tried to put KPIs around it, but when they weren't incentivized, I'm not going to say it never happened, but it certainly happened way less when I didn't incentivize it. We might have got 4 or 5 a month from me trying to get the team to put reviews on. As soon as I incentivized it, now we get about 20 to 40 5-star Google reviews every single month. That's huge. Do you know the impact that has made in the traffic that now comes to our website from those 5-star Google reviews? So what do I pay my staff? I give them $25 for every 5-star Google review they get. It sounds like a lot because all they're doing is asking someone to give them a review and then they get $25. It literally takes them 30 seconds. And it's the easiest money a staff member can make. Honestly, I always say that. It's so easy. We've even got an app on our phone which they can literally just put a phone number in, press send. It sends a templated message to the person saying, hey, leave a 5-star Google review. They press a link, takes them straight to the Google page. They can leave the review. It's so quick and easy, and they get the staff member gets $25. Now, let me ask you something. I thought at the beginning, am I being too generous with this? But I thought, no, I want to make it, generous enough that it's going to get people to do it. If I offered $5, then that would be like, no one would do it, right? $5 isn't enough to get someone like thinking about it. But $25 just to ask that one question and get a 5-star Google review, well, let me tell you, it got my staff real keen on making reviews. So on that as well, what I encourage people to do is get the person making the review to add the name of the property manager that they used. Also mention something about their experience, whether it was in sales or in property management. Every sort of keyword that leads towards your business, and then also the suburbs that they work in. So you call the client before they know that the text is coming through for the 5-star Google review. Ask them, hey, can you mention that you're really satisfied with the rental side of the business because you're a rental client as well? Also, please mention the name of the property manager that works with you. Also mention the suburb that your property is in, because we want to get those keywords sort of helping people whenever they're searching, that the more those keywords are coming up in your comments, the more likelihood you're going to rank better. And here's something about Google is that it works really well for rental business, okay? Because a lot of people, when they're going to sell, like I don't think Google's that good for getting sales leads personally. I don't invest really anything in Google for sales leads because I think people who are going to sell, usually they already have a relationship with a few agents that they're going to sell with. If not, they are more likely to find an agent who catches them in the 3 months leading up that, asks for an appraisal. They might call off like letterbox drops. There's so many other ways that they can sort of engage with the sales agent, but people don't usually have a relationship with a real estate agent for rentals. I don't know why. It's just kind of not really as important for them. And I guess they're probably just not as interested in always finding out information about rental properties. So most people just don't think about it right until the point when they want to rent their property and they just go straight to Google and go, oh, property management, this suburb or whatever. So people are more likely to use Google for property management. That's why we've made a heavy investment in Google Ads and also the reviews. And over 4 years, paying my staff to get Google reviews has led to us getting about 1,200 5-star Google reviews in less than 4 years. And that gives us so much traffic to our website, okay? The fourth way that you can get great leads into your business is using some of those companies that find leads for you. So there's two that I know of that we use. One's called Local Agent Finder and the other one is Open Agent. And they do their own Google ads to attract potential sellers and renters to engage with them, and they find them a real estate agent. So they basically hand out recommendations to potential clients, and then the agency pays a fee if there is a connection. So, for example, with Local Agent Finder, we get about maybe 2 to 3 inquiries a week or referrals through them a week where someone's reached out to them saying, I'm interested in a real estate agent. It's flicked on to us. And then I think the fee, if we end up getting that rental business, is 1 week's rent to Local Agent Finder. So, some people don't like using those companies and say, oh, they're bottom feeders and they're taking our business, they're taking fees off us. But you know what? They went out and found the lead. We didn't know them before. I don't think like that because we hadn't made the effort to get to know that person, and they didn't come straight to us anyway. And if they didn't find it, and give it to us, they may have gone to another agency. So I don't mind using those companies at all. I think they provide a decent service in the marketplace, and we do get a lot of business from that. The fifth and final tip, and these aren't the only ways to find rental business, but the fifth and final is your current landlords. They're your biggest fans. They're on the books already doing business with you. They're the ones that can talk about you to their friends and family. And think about how many people you know, right? We've all got brothers, sisters, uncles, aunties, mums, dads, friends, all sorts of people we know. Well, every landlord has that as well. And you'd be surprised at how many people they probably know who have rental properties either with other agencies and may not be satisfied, or possibly are looking to buy investment properties. So this is so two things you can do with your current landlords is incentivizing property managers. So they're the ones that look after the rental clients all year. They're in regular contact about everything. Incentivizing them to ask the question every now and again if they would like an update on their property, just making sure they keep their ears out and for any hints from the owner that they might sell, and always reminding the client that we do sell properties, and if you ever think of selling it, let me get someone from the sales team to talk to you. Because a lot of landlords, they never have that conversation, and then they go to sell and they end up talking to another agency, and you just missed the business because you haven't asked a couple of simple questions whilst looking after them. So incentivizing property managers to always be looking out for that, and then giving some sort of bonus to property managers when they do find that a landlord wants to do something and passing on the lead. Okay. The other thing to do is to get your BDM or someone in the business to do a 6-monthly check-in that isn't the property manager. So it looks like it's either the business owner or the BDM or someone who's sort of just a different position in the business, who's kind of doing an outside looking in check-in. Hey, just wanted to make sure that you're really happy with the service that the property manager such and such is giving to you and the business overall. Just wanted to make sure it's all good. By the way, just wanted to let you know what's happening in the sales area of that suburb. Would you be interested at all in knowing what your property is worth? So maybe just like giving them an updated sales appraisal, some information, and also asking, hey, do you know any friends and family that are looking for rental properties at the moment? Or are you looking to add to your investment portfolio soon? Would you like someone in our business to help you find another rental property? It's surprising how much business you can actually get out of your current landlords. And I know we've made this mistake so many times of just not thinking about them enough. And then we do a big run through of calling them all and actually end up finding, 5 or 6 pieces of business from doing that. So those are all the main ways that we find rental business. Now I want to talk about just some of the mistakes people make when starting a rent roll. Okay, the first mistake of starting a rent roll is thinking that it's easy. And I made that mistake. I was so naive back when I started the rent roll with my business partner, Dylan, because I had always done sales, and to me, it was easy to find the leads, right? Because I'm out there talking to buyers, talking to sellers, find the investors, and find the opportunity to get some rental business. And then I just flick it over to the rental department, and I think, that's easy. Well, that part is way easier than the rest of it. It's definitely not an easy business. It's really hard work. Property managers are absolute heroes. They have a really hard job. There's a lot of relationships to manage, and it's just a difficult business. It's a problems business, just solving problems all the time, and it's not easy at all. And it's really hard to find really good staff. I'd say that's probably one of our most challenging things, is finding the best staff that we can. And we have a really good team at the moment. It's amazing. But it is a very, very challenging thing for a lot of businesses. And it's a lot of thing that I commonly hear from other business owners is just finding great staff to look after it. It's not an easy business. Don't think that it's a walk in the park. It's really going to test you. The second mistake people make when starting a rent roll is thinking that it makes a lot of money, like right from the start. It definitely doesn't. In fact, there's so many fixed costs, the costs of the property management, the software, and usually, unless you buy a rent roll, you don't have any to begin with. So you have zero income and you're trying to build it. And so it actually costs a lot of money, and it doesn't make any money until you've got at least a couple of hundred. For our business, 350 was the number where it was breaking even. So we made no money. In fact, we were making a loss up until the point where we had 350 on the book. You might think a rent roll earning $15,000 a week in rental income is making all that money. Well, they're probably not making any money at all at that level. Okay, so you've got to get the business to a certain size before it's even making any profit. And then once you're making profit, it's still slow gains from there. So it's really a long-term vision for the property management. But yes, of course, once you have invested in it and taken the time to grow it after many years, and we've got a dream to get to 1,000 in the next couple of years, and I'm sure at that level, it's going to be doing a lot more for our business than it's doing now. The third mistake that people make when starting a rent roll is trying to do sales and property management themselves as the business owner. Big no-no, okay? When you start the business, you have to make income and as much as you can. And if you're a selling principal, you need to focus on that and only that, because there are a lot of other costs, and property management will just end up taking up all of your time and distracting you from actually doing activities in the marketplace which bring the sales in. The sales actually generate a lot more income. Property management is going to take you just as much time and is going to suck you dry. So you shouldn't focus on both. You should have someone in your business that you employ or that you're partnered with whose full-time job is to do the property management themselves. And you as the salesperson, you focus on sales and flick the leads over, and that's how you grow it together. The fourth mistake that people make when starting a rent roll is not hiring a BDM soon enough. And I've seen this quite a lot of times. I talk to business owners and they're 4 years in and they say they don't have a BDM, and they're stuck at 100 to 200 rentals, which is a difficult number to be at. And they don't want to invest the money in a BDM, which is probably, well, it is. It's the most important person that you need to have on the team, because their full-time job is to bring leads into the business, which grows the asset value and builds the income. And they just think that it's just going to naturally happen through the sales and through whatever else they're doing. But it's just not going to happen fast enough. You need to invest in a BDM if you're serious about growing a rent roll. The fifth and final mistake that people make with a rent roll business is not starting one at all. If you've got a long-term vision for your business, then starting a rent roll probably is a really good idea for you in the long term. You have to have a focus on it, of course, and you want to grow it and you need to invest in it. But long term, we're talking 5-10 years. It could be one of the best things that you ever do for your business and your financial future. So a lot of people they just don't end up doing it because they're too busy in sales and they don't want to focus on it. But if you find the right personal partner, I would highly recommend it, because it's done fantastic things for my business. All right, guys, that wraps up today's talk about rental business. I hope I gave you some really good value to take away there. I really appreciate you listening to the podcast. I'd love to hear some comments. Do you agree with what I've said? Do you have any other things that you would like to share about what's good about a rent roll, or what are the mistakes, some mistakes that I may have missed and not shared today that I can share down the track? If you've got anything you can share, I'd love to hear those comments. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next episode of the Get Keen podcast. Thank you for tuning into the Get Keen podcast. If today's episode inspired you, please show your support with a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And make sure you subscribe on your favorite platform too. Don't stop there. Join our community of forward thinkers by connecting with me on social media at Dan_Lee_Plum. I'm looking forward to exploring more strategies and insights with you on your journey to the top. Until next time, keep getting keen.